What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Pink Floyd's album, The Division Bell, brought to you by a friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thank you, Trucker Kev. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. All right, we got a ton of Pink Floyd up on this channel. Go look at the playlist. But way back in the day, Trey and I did traditional reviews of tons of their albums, including Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, The Wall's a big two-parter, Animals, and so on and so forth. Trey ranked the albums. I've never heard this album. Post The Wall, I've never heard any of their albums. So I dove deep into this research, but guys, I'm not going to give you all the research, right? But I'm going to give you some background. So I read tons and tons of stuff, so I kind of understood what was going on. But Trucker Kev says, only thing I'll just simply say is this was an album that took a while to grow on me, but it's just one of my favorite albums in the Floyd catalog. Now, of course, the Waters fans don't like it because starting with Momentary Lapse of Reason, the first one without Roger, there's two camps, right? I always like the way certain Pink Floyd albums begin and has what I call a fade and on the first song. It wasn't a critic's choice as far as positive, strong reviews. I'll get to that. But it's one that upon releasing more remastered versions, it has gotten better reviews and rankings. All right, my info, and I got quite a bit of it. I try not to go too overboard, but I want to paint you a picture. 14th studio album released in March of 1994, the next month in the US in April. It's the second Pink Floyd album recorded without founding member Roger Waters. The Division Bell is written mostly by guitarist and singer David Gilmour and keyboardist Richard Wright. Features Wright's first lead vocal on a Pink Floyd album since The Dark Side of the Moon way back in 1973, so 21 years before. Gilmour's fiancée, the novelist Polly Sampson, co-wrote many of the lyrics, we'll get into that in a minute, which deal with themes of communication. It was the last Pink Floyd studio album to be composed entirely of new material and the last recorded with Wright, who died in 2008. Now, I found this was fascinating to me. It went to #1 in Argentina, Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Germany, Hong Kong, Ireland, Italy, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, the UK, and the US. It has been a long time, boys and girls, since I've come across an album that went to #1 in all of those various places, various languages, various geographic locations. It shows you the pull of Floyd even all the way in 1994. Recording took place in locations including the band's Britannia Row Studios and Gilmour's houseboat, Astoria. The production team included longtime Pink Floyd collaborators such as producer Bob Ezrin, engineer Andy Jackson, saxophonist Dick Perry, and bassist Guy Pratt. Some of the unused material from the Division Bell sessions became part of Pink Floyd's next album, The Endless River, in 2014, so all those years later. It started out with 65 pieces of music. The band voted on each track, whittled them down to about 27 pieces, eliminating some tracks and merging others. They arrived at about 11 songs. Song selection was based upon a system of points whereby all three members would award marks out of 10 to each candidate song. A system skewed by Wright awarding his song 10 points each and the other ones none. So they ended up throwing out that system once they figured out that Wright was doing that. Wright, having resigned under pressure from bassist Roger Waters in the 1970s, was not contractually a full member of the band, which upset him. Wright reflected, quote, "It came very close to a point where I wasn't going to do the album because I didn't feel that what we'd agreed upon was fair." Wright received his first songwriting credits on any Floyd album since 1975's Wish You Were Here, and they eventually remedied that situation. Gilmour's fiancée, we mentioned her earlier, the novelist Polly Sampson, also received songwriting credits. Initially, her role was limited to providing encouragement for Gilmour, but she helped him write High Hopes, a song about Gilmour's childhood in Cambridge. She co-wrote a further 6 songs, which bothered Bob Ezrin. Gilmour said that Sampson's contributions had, quote, ruffled the management's feathers. But Ezrin later reflected that her presence had been inspirational for Gilmour, as she, quote, pulled the whole album together. She also helped Gilmour with the cocaine addiction he had developed following the divorce. The Division Bell deals with themes of communication, the idea that talking can solve many problems. The title refers to the Division Bell rung in the British Parliament to announce a vote. Drummer Nick Mason said, quote, "It's about people making choices, yays or nays." In 2005, Nick Mason said, so many, many years later, "The album feels much more homemade, very much as a band playing together in one space. I think that Rick in particular felt significantly more integrated in the process this time compared to Momentary Lapse. It was nice to have him back." The Division Bell received mixed reviews on release, but it won Grammy for Best Rock Instrumental Performance on Marooned. The Division Bell was nominated for the 1995 Brit Award for Best Album by a British Artist, but lost to Blur's Park Live. Roger Waters, who left Floyd in 1985 to dismiss the Division Bell as, quote, just rubbish, nonsense from beginning to end. Roger just has a way with people, doesn't he? All lyrics are written by Gilmour and Polly Sampson, except where I note. If you haven't been with us before, the music will not be in the video. It will get blocked unless I'm able to upload all of it. I'm going to try to, so it may or may not be in this video. But if it's not, go to the Vimeo link below and I will have that music in there. All right, let's start this thing off with the opening track, Cluster 1, which is instrumental, but arrangement written by Gilmour and Richard Wright. It's the first Pink Floyd collaboration between Wright and Gilmour since Mudman from the 1972 album Obscured by Clouds. The noise which opens the track caused some confusion among fans in 1994 who were unsure on playing the album for the first time whether or not their copy was faulty, as the noise lasts for just over 1 minute before any music begins. According to an interview with Andy Jackson, recording engineer for the album, this noise is electromagnetic noise from the solar wind. You got Gilmour on guitar, Mason on drums and percussion, Richard Wright on piano, synths, and Hammond organ. All right, it's not going to be relevant on this one, but I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Kev. All right, Cluster 1. I think there's a lot of analysis to do here, right? It's just a chilled song. I mean, the highlight is Wright's keys on this for me, but it's just a nice slow burn to get you into the album, but nice and chilled. I mean, I don't really have a lot, like I said, not a lot to break down on it. Next up, we have What Do You Want From Me? Arranged by Gilmour and Wright. A live version from Pulse was released as a single in Canada, reaching number 28. Gilmour has agreed with an interviewer that is a, quote, straight Chicago's blues tune, while mentioning he's still a blues fan. All right, lots more musicians on this one. All right, What Do You Want From Me? Great backing vocals on here. We also have John Karen on the synths on here, helping out Wright on those keyboards, and we have Guy Pratt on bass. So the first like proper tune, not that the instrumental wasn't a proper tune, not that Cluster was, but we're going to get an idea of the vocals. And I mean, I thought Gilmour sounded really good here. I think it's a song, and I mean, that's what most people speculate, to the fans. What do you want from me? Right? What do you want me to do after the momentary lapse of reason did not do super well? People were not real happy with it. So kind of like, what else do you want me to do? I think that's what it's about, but Gilmour really didn't come out and say that any of these things were about much of anything, but definitely had that Chicago blues style at the start. I thought I got away from it a little bit, but then got back to it, but I liked it. All right, now we get to Poles Apart, a song that I've been looking forward to after doing the research, that is for sure. It addresses the two major changes in leadership during Floyd's duration, their impact from Gilmour's point of view. The first verse, now this is all speculation, but I read this in a lot of places. First verse refers to Syd Barrett's initial success, then mental deterioration, specifically refers to Gilmour's guilt over taking his friend's place in Floyd. Second verse refers to Roger Waters' voluntary departure and subsequent legal actions to hold his remaining bandmates from continuing without him. I didn't get into all of that, but that is quite the story. The third verse is ambiguous. It may refer to Gilmour's divorce from his wife Ginger, or all three subjects explored in the song. So who knows? But we have Gilmour on acoustic and electric, lap steel, fretless bass, lead vocals, keyboards, and programming. Wright is on the Hammond, Nick Mason's on drums and percussion, and then we got John Karen in on keyboards, and Tim Renwick's coming in on acoustic as well. It's a 7-minute track because of the lyrical content. I can't wait to hear this one. Let's do it. All right, Poles Apart. I mean, he said that the second verse isn't necessarily about Waters. I mean, you can tell. You can tell that it is. I mean, I can't say 100%, but Hey You, kind of a reference to the Wall song. Did you ever realize what you become? And did you see that it wasn't only me you were running from? Did you know all the time, but it never bothered you anyway? Leading the blind while I stared out, the steel in your eyes, and going this great 2-minute instrumental break where there's almost circus type sounds in there, which may be indicative of something or may not mean anything. I thought the lap steel, especially in verse 1, was a nice little subtlety that he brought in. The guitar work is fantastic. And just really, really enjoyed that song. We got 2 long instrumental breaks that are just nice and smooth and chill. And then the lyrics are fantastic. And Gilmour sounds really good. We'll follow up 2 vocal performances with another instrumental. We got Marooned. It's the only Pink Floyd track ever to win a Grammy. This is the one that won the Grammy, obviously. It has sounds that describe the setting as an island, such as the sounds of seagulls and waves crashing on the shore. It was composed while jamming aboard the Astoria in early 1993. Gilmour processed the guitar sound with Digitech whammy pedal to pitch shift notes entire octaves. Also in the background can be heard wailing guitar effects by Gilmour, reminiscent of the song Echoes. Wright's grand piano parts, originally played and recorded on a Kurzweil, were recorded at Olympic Studios in London. Gilmour's mentioned that pretty much all of Marooned is improvised, and he probably took 3 or 4 passes at it and took the best bits of each. All right, Marooned, to state the blatantly obvious, great guitar work on here from Gilmour. That was really the star of it to me. It was good. I mean, I'm not as much into these instrumental jams, I know, as some other Floyd fans are, of just, being put into these albums. But, I get it. It builds the vibe. Next up, we have A Great Day for Freedom. The song was originally titled In Shades of Grey, addresses the great hopes following the fall of the Berlin Wall and the disappointment that followed. David Gilmour stated, quote, "There's a wonderful moment of optimism when the wall came down, the release of Eastern Europe from the non-democratic side of the socialist system. What they have now doesn't seem to be much better. Again, I'm fairly pessimistic about it all. I sort of wish and I live in hope, but I tend to think that history moves at a much slower pace than we think it does. I feel that real change takes a long, long time." Despite Gilmour's statements to the contrary, the lyrics have often been read as a reflection on the bitter and estranged partnership Gilmour had, of course, with Waters, who was the driving force behind the band's album, The Wall. By this interpretation, the great day for freedom would be the day Waters left the band, giving the other members freedom to determine the band's future direction. Gilmour commented on this reading. He said, quote, "I'm quite happy for people to interpret the Division Bell any way they like, but maybe a note of caution should be sounded because you can read too much into it. A great day of freedom, for example, has got nothing to do with Roger or his wall. It just doesn't. What else can I say?" And Gilmour told The Sun in September of 2008, so 14 years afterwards, about the song. This song is really about the aftermath, or the fall of the totalitarian state. First, it was a joy and a release for the people with the freedom of democracy. But then it became horribly marred by the ethnic cleansing and genocide, particularly in Yugoslavia. According to session player John Marin, the track was a leftover from the sessions for the band's previous album, A Momentary Lapse of Reason. All right, a great day for freedom. No right on this one. You had John Karen on piano and Prophet 5 synthesized. The great Michael Kamen on orchestral arrangements, but great guitar work as usual. I would venture to say it's about the fall of the wall. The only thing is the first chorus, "I dreamed you had left my side. No warmth, not even pride remained. And even though you needed me, it was clear that I could not do a thing for you." I could see how people could think that was about Waters, but the longer these songs are around, and Pink Floyd's fans are very, very passionate, and you want to read stuff into these. And there probably is a lot to read into it. I mean, I just don't have enough history with it to tell you. And I mean, oftentimes the artist's never going to give you a straight story, or what they tell you may or may not be the truth. All right, next up we have Wearing the Inside Out. Collaboration between Richard Wright and Anthony Moore. It's the only song on the album for which David Gilmour does not receive a writing credit. It's the first occasion that Wright provided lead vocals on a song since Time and Us and Them on the band's '73 masterpiece, of course, Dark Side of the Moon. Wright revealed he did the vocal in the first take. According to bassist and past touring member Guy Pratt, the song originated from his idea of a bass riff involving harmonics. Inside Out would eventually become the title of Nick Mason's retrospective book about the history of Pink Floyd. Let's go. All right, Wearing the Inside Out lyrically could be about his return to the band, right? It could be about his return to the band for Richard, and it's broke down a lot of different ways. I'm not really going to get into all that. Musically, I still thought Gilmour's guitar was the best part of it. Vocally, I really wasn't feeling it. And Time and Us and Them are two of my favorite Floyd songs and two classics from one of the best albums of all time, Dark Side of the Moon. So it's not shade at Wright. I just wasn't really feeling the vocals. It's kind of I don't know, this song just didn't work for me. I thought the best part was verse 3 when Gilmour came in and sang with him. I really liked that sound, but it's not a bad song or anything. And I think Dick Perry on the tenor sax really adds something to it. Just wasn't feeling that one as much as the others. Next up, we have Take It Back. A single peaked at 23 on the UK singles chart, the fourth highest in the band's history, which surprised me. Below number one hit, Another Brick in the Wall, and 1967 top 20 hits, See Emily Play and Arnold Lane. Only went to 73 in the US, 9 in Canada. Gilmour used an EBow on a Gibson J200 acoustic guitar that's processed through a Zoom effects box, then directly injected into the board. That's how he creates the sound for this. The lyrics include a common British reading of the nursery rhyme, Ring-a-Ring-o-Roses, during its instrumental section. Okay. All right, Take It Back. A song about Mother Earth, basically, and how we abuse it. And boy, that was 1994. Look at what we've done now. I really enjoyed the intro, right? The instrumental build. I thought the guitar work on it was fantastic. You got a little taste of that on the outro of the coda as well, but I really like the restraint on it, and that was definitely the highlight for me. And so far, one of the best tracks on this album for me. So we got 4 tracks left. We got Coming Back to Life, the only track from the album to be credited solely to Gilmour. It said that the song was written about his wife, Polly Sampson. Coming Back to Life, some people think it has a little bit of water stuff in there too. I could see that from there. I'm not going to break down the lyrics for you. Most interesting thing on this, it starts out with a great guitar solo. There's 3 different guitar solos that build in intensity, each one of them. So I thought that was fantastic. Probably the best guitar work that Gilmour's done on this album. And that's freaking saying something. Next up, we got Keep Talking, music written by Gilmour and Wright. Features samples of Stephen Hawking's electronic voice taken from a BT television advertisement. The same commercial was sampled again in Talkin' Hawkin' from Pink Floyd's next studio album, The Endless River. Gilmour also chose to use a speech after crying to the commercial, which he described as, quote, the most powerful piece of television advertising that I've ever seen in my life. The song also makes some use of the talk box guitar effect. It was the first single to be released from the album in the U.S. in March of '94. It was the group's third #1 hit on the album rock charts, which is a chart that Billboard magazine measures radio play in the U.S. It's not a measure of record sales. Staying atop that for 6 weeks, 8 in Canada. It was sampled by Wiz Khalifa on the title track of his 2009 mixtape, Burn After Rolling. I just thought that was interesting. Not really a connoisseur of Wiz's music, but I thought it was interesting he used this. All right, keep talking. So of course the idea is we're having issues, right? We got to keep talking, and so using Hawkins' voice, which he couldn't talk as ALS except through the electronic box to say keep talking. There's some irony there, right? It was a really good use of that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Hawkins and some of his personal beliefs, but really well done with that. Some of the different effects on there. And, I think the addition of the backing vocals on a lot of these songs definitely adds to them. All right, after researching this album, this is another song I was looking forward to. We got 2 songs left. We got Lost for Words. This is Gilmour's baby. This song is widely believed to be the band's, and particularly Gilmour's, final parting shot at former frontman Roger Waters, who left the band in '85 after a falling out with Gilmour. Particularly, the song's final verse was purportedly a response to Waters' brusque rejection of his invitation by Gilmour to rejoin Floyd for what Gilmour correctly expected would be their final studio album together. So I opened my door to my enemies and I asked, could we wipe the slate clean? But then they tell me to please go F myself. You just can't win. In the Division Bell CD liner notes, the song's lyrics are placed next to a picture of a pair of boxing gloves, and the song's interlude features a boxing announcer declaring a winner by knockout. Some fans interpret these as referring to the ongoing commercial success of post-Waters Floyd, as opposed to Waters' own fading into near obscurity as a solo artist. The song's title could be a reference to Roger Waters himself, indicating that the band is lost for words without him as the main songwriter, hinting that Gilmour still may appreciate Waters' contributions. I doubt it, but who knows, right? The song was released to U.S. rock radio the week of the album's release, succeeding Keep Talking as the previous promotional release a week before. Reached 53 in the Canada charts. It's the only song on the album to be rated explicit, I would imagine, for what I read to you there, the F-bomb. All right, Lost for Words, maybe in the outro, building a little bit into the last song, High Hopes, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I thought that song was really well done, right? I think the fire lines were the last lines that I already read to you, where he gets to go F yourself. But there's a lot of it in the start of this thing, too. It's talking about, while you are wasting your time and your enemies engulfed in a fever of spite, beyond your tunnel vision, reality fades like shadows into the night. I think this song, I don't know if it's my top one on here, but it's pretty close. And I thought Gilmour's restraint on the delivery of it kind of gives it more of an emotive feel as well. So, that was a really good one. And speaking of really good ones, all the research I did really hyped up this last song, High Hopes. Douglas Adams, a friend of Gilmour, chose the title for the Division Bell from one verse in this song. The lyrics refer to the band's early days in Cambridge, specifically before they started making music. It references landmarks such as Long Road and The Cut, as well as Cambridge as a location for magnets and miracles. The video also references ex-bandmate Syd Barrett. Its lyrics speak of things one may have gained and lost in life, written from Gilmour's autobiographic perspective. Gilmour said the song is more about his early days and leaving his hometown behind than about the seeds of division supposedly planted in Floyd's early days. The final couplet from the song, The Endless River, Forever and Ever, recalls a line from the band's second single, See Emily Play, from 1967, Float on a River, Forever and Ever. It inspired the name of their final album, The Endless River, released in 2014. Shortly after the song ends and the chimes fade out is a hidden track comprising a brief phone call between the band's manager, Steve O'Rourke, and Gilmour's son, Charlie. I don't know how that'll be handled on the Spotify version. I don't know if it's right afterwards or if we even hear that, but let's finish this thing out. All right, they made us wait for that last conversation with Charlie, who was Gilmour's stepson, who always wanted to be on a Floyd album. So that's why they put it on here. I think, the chorus, the grass was greener, the light was brighter, the taste was sweeter, the nights of wonder with friends surrounded, the dawn mist glowing, the water flowing, the endless river forever and ever. As we all get older, right, we reminisce on times that we hold up as were better times, or we didn't enjoy them while we could have, or how great they were. But our mind works strangely too, right? Oftentimes we delete the bad things and just emphasize and remember the good things, which is a healthy thing. But sometimes we remember things for being a lot better than what they were. But I think everybody can relate to this song in some form or fashion, or almost everyone. And obviously the guitar work, as on this whole album, was spot on. And I think Gilmore was a little more emotive on this than he was on some songs as well, since it had a real personal connection to him. That is going to take me to my favorite tracks. Honorable mentions: Coming Back to Life and Take It Back. Faves are going to be Pulls Apart, Lost for Words, and High Hope. So end it on a definite high note. Before I get to my overall score, Kev says, not really going to rank all the songs, but final ranking of the album for me is an 8.75. If you remember in the intro, Kev said this album took a while to grow on him, and I think that's where I am right now, right? This album's fine. I mean, it's cool to hear Floyd like this, but for me, it's probably, I'm sure it's a grower. For me, I'm going to be at a 7.0 on this album on first listen. I mean, it's Floyd, it's Gilmore's great guitar work. That is the standout. But I am glad I listened to it and took this journey and learned a lot more about the future history of Floyd. But I need to know what you think. And I know I'm going to get some hot takes from the Floyd fans out there, and I get it. Let me know what you think of this album below. What do you rank it overall? What are your favorite tracks? And where do you think it stands in the discography rankings of Floyd? All right, guys, until next time, I will see you.